Fuck around, make my 40 pop.
Alright guys, I haven't done this in a minute, but I'm going to be responding to some interesting comments that I did actually see. The first one comes from Brian Garson. This guy pretty much says, curious if Boruto will become the Otsutsuki God. I actually think I touched on this in a previous video, but this right here is a very good theory. The first thing that I do have to talk about is Boruto's need to actually protect his friends and the people that he loves and the people that he cares about. And I think one of the best ways they could potentially do something like that is to actually become the Otsutsuki God. If you guys don't necessarily know exactly what the Otsutsuki God is, we kind of seen it a couple chapters ago, and of course we're supposed to see it in any upcoming episode of the Boruto anime that we're about to see as of right now. But it's the strongest Otsutsuki member that there is. Now, do I think that Boruto is actually going to get here? I'm gonna say no. That right there is definitely a tall task, but for Boruto to actually aim to become an Otsutsuki God is definitely not out of the realm of possibilities. One of the things that Momoshiki and Kinshiki actually detail is the fact that this dimension, specifically the one that Boruto and everybody else is living in, it has 16 space curvatures. Me personally, I don't necessarily know what that is. I can't necessarily say exactly what it is without speculating, but one of the things that we do know is that anything over 10 space curvatures are supposed to be immediately reported back to the Otsutsuki clan. That right there pretty much means that there are probably going to be other Otsutsuki members that are trying to actually get to this dimension to actually rectify those space curvatures. Now obviously we did actually see the two missing Otsutsuki members from the other dimension when Sasuke did actually go into the other dimension to actually research and figure out exactly what Ishiki, Otsutsuki, or Jigen actually was at that particular time. Those are two other potential Otsutsuki members that could potentially come to this dimension. But outside of that, just because of the sheer fact that there are 16 space curvatures, there most likely is going to be other Otsutsuki members that are trying to actually get to this dimension and potentially plant a god tree. Because of that, Boruto is going to have to be stronger than all those Otsutsuki members to actually fend off those Otsutsuki members from actually planting a god tree. And if that is the case, Boruto will probably understand that he has to become the Otsutsuki God so he can actually protect his friends and family. Now again, will Boruto actually become the Otsutsuki God? I think that right there is definitely a tall task. Ishiki Otsutsuki, even though he was as strong as he was still not the Otsutsuki God. And of course, becoming the Otsutsuki God entails a lot of other things that just isn't necessarily what Boruto actually stands for. For example, he'd have to go to other dimensions and actually plant god trees in other dimensions on other planets and actually kill multiple millions of people, potentially even billions of aliens in other dimensions. So seeing Boruto go from dimension to dimension like Momoshiki was, just eating a bunch of chakra fruits, that right there seems like a very difficult thing to wrap my mind around Boruto actually doing something like that. So because of that, I can't necessarily say for sure, but I definitely do want to say that there is a possibility. Now the next comment comes from Art D. He basically says Momoshiki is like Karma in Naruto, so Boruto will probably use talk no jutsu with him and they will become friends just like his father did. This right here is definitely a popular theory amongst a lot of people out there, and of course I could definitely see exactly why this right here would be a popular theory, but I want to kind of explain in a different way. First things first, Boruto is not necessarily like Naruto. Boruto doesn't really use talk no jutsu much. Of course we did see a bit of it when he was an academy student, but usually Boruto's a little bit more like Sasuke, I'd say. But of course he still does have the Naruto tendencies where he still wants to see the best in a lot of the people out there, similar to how he tried to talk no jutsu Mitsuki, similar to how he tried to talk no jutsu Sumide, and also similar to how he was trying to extend a reaching arm to Ao when he could have actually just killed him on the spot. But what we have to understand is that Momoshiki Otsutsuki is on a mission. Damn near almost all the other Otsutsuki members, they're on a mission. Momoshiki most likely wants to become the Otsutsuki God. I personally believe if Boruto vows to actually become the Otsutsuki God, Momoshiki would probably hear him out. And I think I did actually kind of touch on this a little bit in possibly a previous video, but this right here is going to be the best possibility of Momoshiki actually agreeing to, you know, stay inside of Boruto. Also the fact that he's probably actually going to be forced to mail him because of the pills, if they are as effective as we think they are. Because of that, I could possibly see them actually becoming friends, but for Momoshiki to actually give up his Otsutsuki will, I think that right there is definitely not likely. Karma's will in itself was not as strong as Momoshiki's will. Karma was acting more out of rage and didn't necessarily understand that humans can actually be friendly. I'm pretty damn sure Momoshiki understands that humans can actually be friendly, but he himself has something bigger in mind. Because of that, I can't necessarily see them actually joining forces until Boruto agrees to adopt that mentality. Until Boruto becomes like a code where he actually starts to actually revere a character like Momoshiki or praise a character like Momoshiki, I would not expect that to actually happen. And of course, I know a lot of fans out there want this to happen, but I'm just gonna say, do not get your hopes up. Now the next comment comes from Ezek LT. He basically asks, where is goddamn Toneri? please do a video. This isn't going to be a full video, but this right here is going to be the best that I can actually do. Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys don't necessarily know, because I understand that a lot of you guys didn't necessarily watch Boruto from episode 1 to episode 220, but Toneri was extremely relevant throughout the first, I should say, 55 episodes of the Boruto anime. Throughout those first 55 episodes, he was heavily amongst the plot line of Boruto's eye, the Jogan. We could possibly link Toneri's disappearance to the disappearance of the Jogan. Obviously, we did see Boruto's Jogan pop up a little bit in around episode 133, I believe, somewhere around those times when he was actually fighting against Urashiki alongside Shinki. But one of the things that we do understand is that whenever Toneri's in the series, the Jogan is pretty much in the series as well. Now, a big difference right now that wasn't necessarily back then, Boruto has become like literally an Otsutsuki member. So hypothetically, then this right here is going to be very interesting. If it is a situation where Boruto's memories are going to be intertwined with Momoshiki's memories, there is definitely a possibility that Boruto may actually gain the skills to actually unseal Toneri. If you guys don't necessarily recall, Toneri was actually sealed by Urashiki Otsutsuki. There is definitely a possibility that Boruto will gain the knowledge, because of course it's Momoshiki's experiences that Boruto is now going to have. He may actually realize that Toneri is on the moon sealed, and of course because he now has the powers of Momoshiki, he might actually have a power to actually unseal Toneri. So Toneri coming back is definitely a real possibility. One of the things that a lot of people have actually hypothesized is the fact that Boruto would actually be training with Toneri throughout the time skip, so Boruto can actually learn how to fight like an Otsutsuki member and also master his Jogan. If this is actually the case, I'm pretty sure there's a huge portion of the fan base that would absolutely love this. Not only will Boruto know how to fight as a shinobi, but he'd also learn how to fight as an Otsutsuki member and also fully master his Jogan, which could possibly be the strongest dojutsu of all time. So there's a bunch of actual intrigue behind that, and hopefully they do actually tap into that a tiny bit. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be the exact same thing that I did actually lay out, but hopefully Toneri does actually get unsealed, mainly because I believe that he'd definitely be a big help to not only Boruto, but also Naruto and Sasuke to fight off a bunch of the other cyborgs, possibly Code and possibly some other Otsutsuki members out there that are definitely going to be trying to pull up to the Hidden Leaf Village. As I said earlier, 16 space curvatures, we could possibly assume that there's definitely going to be other Otsutsuki member sightings that we do have to deal with in the future, and of course Boruto can't necessarily be dealing with them by his lonesome. Now, the next comment comes from Jose Garcia. He basically asks, why would the experience stay? Most likely only when karma is active. This right here is definitely a very good question. Now, if you guys don't necessarily recall, this right here is from the manga, so if you guys aren't necessarily fully catched up to the manga, this is right here where you guys actually exit. But now, to give the actual correct backstories, Code basically told Boruto that the Karma Seal gives the vessel the battle experiences of the actual Otsutsuki member. Real time, while I was reading this, in my head I thought that this right here made all of the sense in the world. I think a very good example of this is, of course, a couple of chapters ago when Boruto miraculously became the world's best sensory ninja of all time. Boruto out of nowhere learned how to actually track down Kawaki in his base. This right here essentially means that the Karma Seal is feeding Boruto information while he is in his base. So it wouldn't necessarily be completely far-fetched to assume that all the other experiences that Momoshiki does actually give Boruto would be available to Boruto when Boruto is in his base. And again, if this is the case, Boruto is going to be insanely strong just in his base. But these are the questions, and of course I'm going to try to bring back the series, so every single Saturday I'll probably talk about something like this, or probably sprinkle in one or two possibly in the week, so I can actually reply to you guys' comments, because I know you guys comment a lot, and I'm super happy for you guys for that, man, because I read a lot of them. But it's been your boy Baara B, and we out.
It's a knife.